Hello, everyone. Today I'll be talking about some things that people do that can actually, drain your money or drain your wealth, or what I call wealth killers. You see, there are some certain things that we do as human beings, as people, that tend to drain our money or that tend to drain our wealth. And if care is actually not taken, we might end up achieving nothing at the end of the day. And these factors or these things are those things I'm going to, be discussing in this topic. On those things that actually can drain your wealth or that can make your money to fizzle out or to go. Now, the first one is what I call home. Home, number one, home. You see, a lot of people actually, spend their fortune and spend a lot of money on their homes. Now, I'm talking about the homes that you actually build with your money. I could remember some years back when I was actually building my house, I bought a piece of land and I did the foundation, and from there we bought some blocks and some other materials. And after some years, it took me some years to actually finish the house. I was able to pack in with my families after some period of time. You know, a lot of people actually make a lot of mistake when it comes to building their homes because building homes is something that does not end in time. You can put billions and billions and billions of money into home building, and that house or that home is still going to gulp that money, and it will not still be enough. So you need to have your what your limits when it comes to building your house. So the reason why I'm saying this is because a lot of people, when they buy this land, they always wanted to build something massive, something big, something gigantic, something gargantuan on that piece of land. And the funniest thing at the end of the day is that even when you are grown old and you're no longer there, and your children, in the future might not even live in this house, they might not even live there. So why building a mansion? Why building an empire? Why building a very massive estate simply because you want to live in that house? So building homes or building houses is one of the ways that we can actually make our pocket to be very, very empty. So the major thing you need to know is that homes does not generate any income. It doesn't generate any income. And funny enough, a lot of people go to the extent of even borrowing money from banks to actually build their houses. I could remember at that time when I was trying to build my own house, the pressure was so much. It got to a point I have to make up my mind that I was not going to involve myself in taking money from anybody, but I have to save my money. So what actually helped me was that I was saving some money. I'll save some money for some period of time, maybe 6 months. When the money is up to that point in which I wanted it, I'll go to the market and buy the materials I actually wanted for my house. And that was how I was doing it over time, and I was able to finish that house. So building homes today is very, very expensive, and building and maintaining house the same thing is also very, very expensive. So houses that we build can become a liability when we don't downsize on our expenses. I've seen people today that they have actually gone to the bank to borrow money to build their homes, and today the banks have actually taken that house or those homes away from them because they could not be able to pay back to the bank which they have gone to borrow money for to build their house. So don't spend all your life income, don't spend all your fortune, don't spend all that you have actually managed to acquire over the years to build your home in an extravagant way. Somebody was telling me in the office some time ago, an engineer for that matter, that there was a house that was built by one man in Lekki, and the man is late now, and in that house you have something like a lift, that will take you from the ground floor to the top. And unfortunately, when the man became demise, the children had to demolish the whole house. They don't want it. You can imagine that they have to demolish, they have to destroy the whole house. They have to take their mothers because it was a polygamous house. They took their mothers from that house in Lekki, and they took their parents to their mothers to somewhere in what? In Banana Island. So if that man is in the grave, I'm sure he is going to be regretting the decision he has actually taken in what? In building such a massive house. And at the end of the day, the children does not fancy such an empire. And funny enough, at the end of the day too, such houses are usually sold by those children in the future when the man is no longer alive. So don't spend your fortune, don't spend your resources, everything of what on building a home. Build something that you can afford, and build something that you can actually manage, and build something that you can actually maintain at the end of the day. Then number two wealth killer that takes money away from people is also what I call cars. Cars. A lot of people today they fail to realize that cars are actually liabilities. You understand now? Cars are like phones. When you immediately buy them, the following day they start losing value. They become a what? A liability. So people spend a lot of money, people spend a lot of fortune, people spend their hard-earned money to buy expensive cars. You want to what? To be known as being rich, you want to be known as being wealthy, and they go to the extent of what? Of buying these cars with their hard-earned money. Funny enough, some people even go to the extent of what? Of borrowing money from banks to fund or to buy their cars. And they end up paying to the banks and end up maintaining the car. And at the end of the day, the car becomes a liability to them. So cars are liabilities because they will take money away from you. So people spend money on what they cannot afford because you want to live up to the society, because you want people to see you as being rich, you want people to see you that you have actually arrived. You are spending your money on what? On those liabilities like those cars. So they find it very difficult at the end of the day when after buying those cars to maintain the car, because maintaining car in Nigeria now is very very expensive. So instead of buying those cars that are very expensive, why don't you buy a car that you can actually what? Be able to maintain and what? And they afford with your money, because it is more advisable to buy a car with your money than going to the bank to borrow money to buy your car, because that car is going to be a liability at the end of the day. So what I'm saying there is that if you don't want your wealth to be drained, or you don't want your pocket to be empty, it is now time for you to spend your money wisely by buying those things you can actually afford. And what are those things you can actually afford? By using your money to buy those things instead of what? Going to the banks to borrow money to buy those things. In fact, we have a lot of those companies in Nigeria. One of them is Auto Check. They will tell you, guy, if you don't have the money to buy a car now, we can actually sell a car for you. And by the time you calculate the amount of interest that you are going to pay on that car, it is very very massive and very very expensive. So don't borrow your money to buy a car, and don't buy a car that will become a liability to you at the end of the day. So invest your money instead of buying that expensive car, from those car marketers. Why don't you what? Invest that money that you want to use to buy that expensive car into investment where it's going to be generating money for you at the end of the day. This is 2024. Invest wisely. Don't spend your money on liability, but spend your money on what? On the investment. So use your cash. If at all you are going to buy a car, use your cash to buy a car, and don't borrow money to buy a car from banks, because you are going to pay interest on those money you are actually borrowing. So don't have what I call a misplaced priority when you go out there to to buy a car with a loan, but rather invest your money. People that are rich today are the investors. I can remember, when I was, living somewhere in the Abulegba, and I bought my first car was actually Nissan Bluebird. From Nissan Bluebird, I went into, I think, Nissan Altima. From Altima, I went into Toyota Celica. From Toyota Celica, I went into what we call a Nissan Quest. And from Nissan Quest, I went into another car. And I sat down one day and I asked myself the question. Over the years, I bought over 7 cars for myself, 7 to 8 cars for myself. What have they gotten for me? Nothing. They are all liabilities, because most of these cars I've just mentioned now, I ended up selling most of them. I ended up selling most of them. And most of them are even not with me now because I have to sell them. Do you understand? Because they became a liability and I find it very difficult to actually maintain them. And for that reason, I have to sell them off. So avoid the liabilities. So the second thing that can take your money from your pocket or make you to lose your wealth or drain your wealth or the wealth killer is what I call cars. Number three is what I call being cheap. A lot of us are always very, very cheap. Now, you ask yourself, what do I mean by being cheap? Being cheap is that we don't always like to spend money on what on things that have a quality. Don't get me wrong, on things that have quality. Sometimes you want to take, you want your children to be the best in life, and you want them to actually, be aspiring to a greater dream in the future, and you put them in a school that you are paying maybe like a 2,000 naira as opposed to a school where you pay 50,000 naira. You can see that at the end of the day, the quality is going to speak for itself because you are going for something cheap. And at the end of the day, that something cheap will not be able to give you quality at the end of the day. So going for something cheap can sometimes be dangerous and sometimes can also be very, very expensive. I could remember those days when we're using phones, all these cheap phones. You buy, sometimes we'll go to the market and buy a fairly used phone because we couldn't afford a new phone. We'll buy a very fairly used phone. And before you know it, after buying that phone, after 3 months or 4 months, that phone will start having fault and will start having problem. At the end of the day, we end up throwing those phones away because they are not useful again. Now, imagine you buy those, substandard phones over and over and over again. By the time you calculate the amount of money you've actually used in buying them, we are going to realize that money will have been able to buy a new phone for you. So avoid things that are very, very, very cheap in terms of what? In terms of quality. So being cheap can be very expensive and can cost you a lot of money at the end of the day. So like the story of the phone that I've just told you now, you end up buying a lot of phone. That's why today I don't buy fairly used phones again. I buy a brand new phone. And when I talk about buying a brand new phones, I have a limited lifespan for my phone. Like the phone I'm using now, I bought it in 2018, 2019, and I'm still using it to today. And people will ask me and tell me, man, are you okay? You're using a phone of 5 years. What's your problem? Well, it's not a problem. That is the economic situation because I have to invest my money and put my money where it's going to generate value for me. Phone will not generate value for me. Phone will not give me value, but will rather become a liability in my pocket. And you can imagine also when you are making your priorities, you should also be very, very expensive, very careful. I know of someone that actually went to go and buy a phone of 950,000 naira. To me, that is craziness. That money is what is something. If I put that money in my investment, I'm going to be earning a lot of money every day in my investment. So choose your priority right. Despite the fact that avoiding something that is very cheap can be useful, but going for things that are very, very cheap can also be very, very dangerous because they are going to create a hole in your pocket. So you get quality when you go for something that has a quality as against a quantity. So what we're saying there is that when you avoid things that are very, very cheap, you help to save a lot of money for yourself because at the end of the day, when you go for those things that are very, very cheap, you will spend more to maintain those things and also to rectify the problem they are going to create for you at the end of the day. So for that reason, I made up my mind I'm not going to buy something that is very fairly used again. That does not apply to phones also. It applies to every ramification of life. You can imagine yourself, you are an entrepreneur, and because you don't want to spend money, you want to go and hire substandard people to come and work for you. At the end of the day, they are going to give you substandard results. At the end of the day, you are going to spend more money to rectify and correct the problem they are going to create for you. So avoid things that are very, very, very cheap. Then number four, impulse investment. Impulse investment. I could remember in 2020 when there was a coronavirus or pandemic, there was a lot of tension, uncertainty, economic uncertainties, and problems in the society at that time. And because of that problem, a lot of stock prices have actually fall or they fell, and the stocks became very, very cheap, and people could buy more. In this situation, it is more advisable because when stock prices actually what go down, somebody like Warren Buffett, that is the time he is going to what, to come and buy stocks because he will wait a very long period of time when the price of stocks will come down, and that's when someone like Warren Buffett will invest his money on what on the stock investment. So when stock go down, it is very good to buy your stocks. But on the other hand, the reverse can be the case, most especially if you are into what I call emotional investment or emotional investing. Now, what is emotional investing? Emotional investing occurs when you are afraid of something that thing is going to lose in value, and because of that, you end up quickly selling off those things. So in 2020, a lot of people actually sold off their investment. They sold off everything, and today, those that did not sell their investment, they are reaping up the dividend of what of a investment. So a lot of people today, they are actually guilty of what we call a emotional investment, where they sell their stock, they sell a lot of things that belongs to them because of the fact that the market has actually crashed. You understand? So others also buy stocks that will, at the end of the day, they will probably be bankrupt. So what we're saying here is that a lot of people too today, they are also guilty of what of emotional investment when they buy stocks that they don't have enough financial education or information about those stocks. But because people are talking about the trends of the day, these are the things that are actually winning, they actually put their money into it. And at the end of the day, those stocks or those companies become bankrupt and their money actually disappear. So don't follow the majority, follow the minority, and make proper investigation before you invest your money. Don't follow the random people on YouTube that will advise you do this, do that. Go back, think properly, investigate, and find out before you make your investment. So don't do what I call impulse investing or impulse investment, where you buy wrongly and sell at the wrong time. You buy at the wrong time and you also sell at the wrong time. It is very, very dangerous because it's going to create a hole in your pocket. So financial education is very good for you to be able to go through this process. So avoid buying out and selling at the wrong time. This is very, very important. So don't make what I call a impulse investment, because at the end of the day, you may end up losing your money. So number five is what I call short-term loans. A lot of us are actually guilty of short-term loans because we always wanted it fast. Now, when you talk about short-term loans are loans that you can take within three and pay back in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 1 year. But the most incredible thing or the most fascinating thing about short-term loans is that they attract a lot of interest. In Nigeria now, if you take a loan from a bank, you are going to pay 26 point something percent of the interest. I can remember some time ago, about some few months back, I went to Access Bank to meet a one of my account officers, and I was asking her, lady, I want to take a money in your bank because my investment portfolio will serve as my guarantee and as my collateral for what I actually wanted to take. And she asked me how much you actually wanted to take, and I told her, and she told me in return that, man, if you want to take this money, you are going to pay. Then it was even 23 point something percent, about 23.5%. And I said, what? You mean if I take this money, I'm going to pay 23.5%? And she said the loan is subject to changes at any point in time. That if the interest rate is being changed by the CBN, the Central Bank of Nigeria, that means I will have to pay more money. At the end of the day, I didn't take that decision. I said I'll get back to you. And when I go back to my office, I actually thought about it and I said, do you mean if I take this loan, I'll be paying about 20 point something percent? Then this loan is not good for me. And what I actually wanted to use that loan for is just to put that money into my investment portfolio and make more money at the end of the day. Though it was going to be favorable to me because I will end up paying the loan in 1 year, and that will be end of of the loan. But on the other hand, too, I felt that if I can be able to raise that money by myself, then I will not pay any interest to anybody. And that was how I decided not to take that loan. So short-term loans can create what I call wealth killer. So if you don't want to have or experience what I call a wealth killing, or someone that will actually drain your money from your pocket or make you to be very poor or impoverished, then you must avoid what I call short-term loans. Interest rate is very, very high in Nigeria now, 26%. So imagine the amount of money you are going to pay over and over again each time you collect loan. And the funny thing is that a lot of people don't collect these loans and that will be the end of it. Once they finish paying that loan, they'll go for another loan, they'll go for another loan, they'll go for another loan. So you pay 26% for the first 3 months, 26 point something percent for the first 3 months, then go and take another loan, you pay 52 point something percent for the 6 months, then you take another loan. By the time you calculate it for a year, you are paying about 52% for 52%. You are paying about 106% of interest per annum. That is suicide. 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 106% of interest per annum. So if care is not taken, the amount of money you are going to pay back as interest is going to be above or higher than the interest, the money you are even collecting from the banks. So be very careful about what short-term loans. And what are these short-term loans? You have what we call, payday loans. Payday loans, the one that you collect at the end of the month, they will deduct it from your salary. Payday loans, you have credit card loans, we have easy buy loans, we also have what we call buy now and pay later. All these loans, they take away money from your pocket. Presently, the country is experiencing inflation. Inflation is about 33.95% in Nigeria. 33.95% in Nigeria. A lot of households today are finding it very, very difficult to survive in this crushing suicidal economic situation and condition. And collecting loan or taking loan from the bank is not the best option at this point in time, because it is going to be suicidal and it is going to take a lot of money from your pocket, because you are creating wealth for other people instead of what, or creating wealth for yourself. So avoid short-term loans because you make other people rich. 2024 is not the time for you to be making other people rich, but to make yourself rich. Investment is the way. Investment is what is the future. So invest your money, but don't take any loan from any bank. Then last one, which I'm going to talk about, is what I call impulse purchases. Impulse purchases. A lot of us have this insatiable urge for everything. I can remember some time ago I went to ShopRite. I think 2 weeks ago I went to ShopRite to buy some things. I actually wanted, let me be sincere with you, I actually wanted to buy bread in ShopRite. On that day, I wanted to buy a loaf of bread in ShopRite. And when I got there, I probably buy some butters and some beverages that I actually needed for myself. And when I got there, I was so enticed, I was so captivated. I was carried away by what I was saying there. I saw a lot of things. This one will be telling you, come and buy me. This one will say, come and buy me. This one will say, come and buy me. I became so, attracted to those things. And I wanted to start buying those things. But an impulse told me that, man, you are an investor. This is not the right time to do this thing. And I decided, man, let me go for what I actually came here to come and buy. And I bought my bread and I bought my butter and I bought my beverage and I left the place. But imagine someone that does not have the purchasing behavior that can be able to control his insatiable urge for those things. On that day, that person would have finished all the money in his account simply because he wanted to buy this, he wanted to buy that. So the people that are selling this product, they always display them, they advertise them in a way that you always be eager to buy them, you always be eager to purchase them, except you have what we call purchasing behavior, when you can know when you should have a limit to what you're actually buying. So when you have impulse purchases, it can drain money from your pocket and can also be a wealth killer. So avoid those things. So create a priority and have priorities or scale of preference for those things that are actually needed in your life. And those ones that are not important, avoid them. Buy those things that are actually needed, not everything you don't need. A lot of us today, if you go to our houses, we buy a lot of things that we don't even need, and they create those and they create space in the house. And at the end of the day, a lot of people actually end up blaming themselves for buying those things. If you get to my house today, I don't buy those things I don't need. Before I make any purchase, I think about it. Is this thing, those things are actually needed, or things that don't need actually what needed? If they are priorities to me, I'll buy it. But if they are not priorities to me, I will never buy them. So you must have a purchasing behavioral attitude in 2024. Not everything you should buy, but rather buy those things that are very, very important to you, and buy those things that are not, and avoid those things that are not important to you, or those things that you know that you don't need, because they will occupy space in your house. They will take your money, and they will also what create what I call money problem in your life, where you will not be able to buy those things that you actually needed, that are very important to you. So avoid impulse purchases, avoid short-term loans, avoid what we call impulse investment, avoid what being buying things that are very, very cheap, or investing your money on what on things that are very cheap, and avoid those things that will make money to leave your pocket. On this note, I'm going to end my topic or my discussion on those things that actually will drain your wealth, or those things that actually will take money from your pocket, or those things that are wealth killers. If you have not subscribed to my channel, go and subscribe now. You agree with me that this topic I just dropped now is actually very interesting and very, very educative and informative, and it will help to build your future. So if I've actually gained something from this video, please go and subscribe now. Thank you to our returning subscriber. We say a very big thank you to you. And if you have not subscribed, subscribe now, and leave your comment on how to serve you better. And don't forget to share our videos to the numerous people out there. At the end of the day, I believe all of us are going to have what we call wealth together. Let's build this wealth together and become what millionaires and billionaires in 2024. So till I see you guys next time, thank you and God bless you all. Bye bye.